Prime Minister, welcome to the Aaron Molan Show. Thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's good to be with you, Aaron.
You were a few moments late, clearly running a country, so you're forgiven, but I'm glad you were because this headline just dropped and I want to start the interview by asking for your reaction to it. It's on the Axios news site and it says, Scoop, Israel seeks 20-year military aid deal with US with America first tweaks. Is that correct?
I don't know what they're talking about. My direction is the exact opposite. When I first became prime minister in 1996, I went to the U.S. Congress and we were receiving financial aid and military aid. And I said, the first thing is, we're going to build a high-tech, free market capitalist economy. We don't need the financial aid. Phase it out. And everybody gasped. How dare he, this young prime minister, eager for a PR title. He's giving up billions of dollars. And I was happy to do it, and I was right to do it. So we got rid of that. Now I want to make our arms industry independent, totally as independent as possible. So my direction is the exact opposite. I don't know who's talking for Israel. I do. So follow what I say, not what is put forward in some leaks that are not true.
So, Prime Minister, you think it's time to cut military aid entirely from the US?
I think it's time to assure that Israel is independent. Understand that our military aid is like a fraction, a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what the U.S. spent in Afghanistan or spent in, in the Middle East. It's tiny. But, I think that we have a very strong economy. We have a very strong arms industry. And it's true that even though we get what we get, which we appreciate, 80% of that is spent in the United States. So it produces jobs in the United States. But nevertheless, I'd like to see a much more independent Israeli, and even more independent Israeli defense industry. And remember that Israel doesn't ask others to fight for us. Israel is the one American ally in the world that says, we don't need boots on the ground. We don't need American servicemen fighting, on the ground for Israel or around Israel. We're fine. We fight our own battles, but in doing so, we also serve important American interests, like preventing countries that chant death to America from having nuclear bombs to throw at America, and so on. So my direction is independence. My direction is not greater dependence. My direction is greater independence. And I'll probably have something to say about that very soon.
What's a realistic timeline for that?
Oh, I think we're already, we're already going there. In fact, this afternoon I'm having a very important meeting exactly on this subject. How do we plan for the next 5 years and the next decade in making sure that Israel is as fully independent as possible? So that's the direction. It's I don't know where the Axios leaks come from, but it certainly didn't come from me.
Prime Minister, President Trump put in an official request to your president for a pardon with your corruption trial that's been going on for a fair while now. What is your reaction to that, and would you accept a pardon if it were to be offered to you?
Well, look, I'll think about it, but I'm very grateful to President Trump for being so forthright. He just cuts to the chase. He tells it like it is. I mean, this trial is so absurd. I spent 3 days a week, can you imagine this? Running a war and now seeking to expand the peace. I spent 3 days a week in a court talking about why my son Yair, who was on your show, but when he was 5 years old, received a Bugs Bunny doll. That's a terrible bribe. Or how I received some cigars from a friend. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. It's falling apart. The mainstream news media have stopped covering it because it's so, embarrassing to the prosecution. And President Trump basically called it a politicized and unjust witch hunt, which it is. It's not the last thing. But the important thing is I think it hurts both American and Israeli interests, which is also what he said. He said, my time has to be free to pursue the things that will determine Israel's future and the future of peace in the Middle East. So the thing is, it's absurd. and these absurdities should end. And I appreciate the fact that he said it like it is. As far as my answer, yeah, I'll think about it.
What do you say to people who say that if you do accept it, it means that you're not innocent of what you're being accused of?
Well, that's not going to happen. Nobody suggests that that's what I'll do, and I certainly won't do that. That's not going to happen.
Prime Minister, I want to read you a quote from a group chat that I'm in that someone said off the back of this letter being published, and they said, Trump is the best thing to happen to Israel and the Jewish people since Moses. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would say since maybe Cyrus, you know.
Okay. I want to ask you about the new mayor of New York City, Mamdani, who said very robustly and confidently that he would arrest you should you step foot in New York City. He's softened that stance a little bit over the last, say, 12 hours, saying, well, foreign leaders can travel wherever they like. Are you afraid now of going to New York City? Will you not go because of that fear, even though really he's got no means to back that up?
The answer is no, I'm not afraid. And the answer is what do you want me to say about Mamdani? I mean, what about him? Ask me, you want me to give you opinions about him? I can tell you that I reformed the Israeli economy. It wasn't quite socialist, but it was semi-socialist, and it was hitting rock bottom. So I introduced something called free markets, or as it's commonly known, capitalism. And everything soared up. Israel became a global high-tech power. Tel Aviv now is the skyline changed. We had one skyscraper 20 years ago. Now we have a forest of them. And you know what? Inequality went down because people joined the job market. So everybody's income rose, and the disparity between the rich and the poor actually declined sharply. So socialism doesn't work. It's a good line that brings you right deep into into a hole, and it's very hard to dig out from under. I think that's one problem for the people of New York, the residents of New York. The other one is that anti-Semitism usually collapses societies. It's not usually, always collapses societies, because it starts with the Jews, and then it goes to the blacks, and then it goes to the gays, and then it goes to the Hispanics, and so on. And you just collapse societies. So if that's the future of New York, I think New York has a very dim future, and usually people shake out of it. But what I found in reforming the Israeli economy is that it's very hard to do. It's very, very hard to do. We did it, and we did it with amazing success, and Israel is now one of the greatest. I think our stock market is growing faster than any other stock market in the world after 2 years of war. And that's because of the sound structure of free market competition and not impossible handouts that create deficits that then collapse everything on your back. You know, if you sit at home and you just take debt, you reach a position called bankruptcy. And that's where New York might be headed. So I think that I wish a better future for the people of New York. But you ask me, am I afraid of going there? Hell no, of course not.
Are you open to dialogue with him if he were to reach out and want a conversation with you?
Well, listen, I have a lot of dialogues that I'm engaged in right now. I mean, a lot, okay? And I think this one, I think he should get his act together before he makes these statements. It's good to be a young leader, but it's not good to be a young, uneducated leader in the sense of not knowing economics, not knowing what anti-Semitism is, not knowing who the bad guys are. But I think you should brush up on that. Then we might have a conversation.
I'd love your reaction to the new Syrian president who's just been in America. And again, fully understand that dialogue is required even with people you may disagree with or with people who were once terrorists. But how does it feel to watch him playing basketball with US military leaders? Does that sit comfortably with you? Do you have any take on that?
I think the issue is not how he plays basketball on a basketball court, but what he does on the ground. And by the way, I personally prefer football, or soccer as they call it in America. But that's not the game I'm interested in. The game I'm interested in is what happens on the ground. Does Syria become a peaceful country? Does he weed out the jihadists in his own military? Does he work forward with me to achieve a demilitarized zone in southwest Syria that abuts the Golan Heights? What do we do to secure our Druze brothers? The Syrian Druze brothers of Israel were mutilated, massacred, almost as bad as in the October 7th massacre that was conducted by Hamas in Gaza. I mean, you can actually see a film of these jihadists tear the heart out of a man, a Druze man, while he's alive and eating it. I mean, this is horrible, horrific. So I acted to protect our Druze brethren, and I want an arrangement that both demilitarizes southwest Syria and offers permanent protection for the Druze minority in Syria. If we have that, we can move on. I'm going to look, when I look at Ashara, I'm going to look at what is actually being done, what is actually being achieved. And it's, remember President Reagan? You probably don't, but he had a saying vis-a-vis the Soviet Union and the détente that was being advocated. He said, trust but verify. And I say trust and distrust, but verify.
President Emmanuel Macron is currently hosting, as he calls him, the President of Palestine, so a made-up title. Who is more dangerous, do you think, not just to Israel, but to the West in general? A leader who pays terrorists to kill innocent people, or a leader who tries to whitewash that and shakes the blood-stained hand and tries to legitimize the person paying the terrorists? Who is more dangerous?
And you cannot build peace on falsehoods. Sooner or later, these falsehoods crash on the rocks of Middle East reality. The reality is that the Palestinian leader Abbas, who was feted right now in Paris, pays terrorists to kill Jews. The more Jews they kill, the more they get paid, okay? They take care of their families. The more Jews you kill, the more we take care of your families, even if you were, if you were in jail here. He names the public squares in the Palestinian towns that he controls against mass murderers. He names the government compound in the name of a mass murder. He teaches the children with textbooks that call for the annihilation of Israel. To bring in such a person, embrace him and say, you're the Prince of Peace, is the opposite of reality. It's false. And I think my advice to President Macron is the advice I just gave to Mamdani. Learn the facts. Stick to the facts. Stick to realities, and don't try to escape it. And when you look at the facts, the force for peace, the force for stability, the force for progress is not the Palestinian Authority, but Israel. The force for peace, the force for progress are not the mob screaming support for Hamas, which calls for the destruction of America and the annihilation of Jews. It's those Americans who support Israel, those Americans who support Israel because they support America. And I think Douglas Murray had a tremendous point, which is good for France, it's good for America, it's good for any place in Europe. And he says, look, when you have demonstrations on behalf of Hamas or the Palestinians, do people wave the flag of America there? No. Do they wave the flag of Britain when these demonstrations happen in the UK? No. They wave, what they do with the flag of the UK is they burn it. What they do with the flag of America is they burn it. But when you see pro-Israel demonstrations in these countries, you see the Israeli flag and you see the American flag. You see the UK flag and you see the Israeli flag. And that's the whole difference. So I think that the president of France should be with those who support France. The president of America should be with those who support America. In America, that's very clear. In France, it's not. And in New York, it's not either. It's the opposite.
I want to talk to you about Iran. They're saying the water crisis, and I know you're very across this. You've done videos directly to the Iranian people talking about the capability of Israel to fix this crisis and fix it quickly. They say it's the worst in living memory. They might have to evacuate Tehran. The regime was significantly weakened during that 12-day war, and I was in Israel for that war. You did an incredible job. America came in and helped as well. What can you do to help the people of Iran make the most of this vulnerable moment for that evil regime who does not belong there, who stole power?
Well, we can do a lot, Aaron, and we're ready to do a lot. But this regime isn't interested in the people of Iran. I mean, they took billions and billions and billions of dollars and put it into the Iran terror axis. They put it in Hezbollah, they put it in Hamas, they put it in the murderous Assad regime. The one thing they didn't put it in was in waterworks. They didn't put it in schools. They didn't put it in building the Iranian economy. The Israeli economy is bigger than the Iranian economy. Can you imagine? I mean, we're only 10 million people and they're close to 100 million. So that's what they did. They basically gave it to put all their efforts into terror and subjugation of their own people who are miserable. I just saw a poll that said that 90% of the people think the situation in Iran is horrible and the regime is failing the people, and that's true. So will this cause the people of Iran to rise up? Time will tell, but it's very clear that the regime has absolutely no support there. It can't manage its way out of a paper bag.
Would you have finished the job had it not been for American reluctance during that 12-day war?
No, look, we had a very clear set of targets. We were absolutely clear. We wanted to target the nuclear sites, the missile production sites, and a few other targets. We made that clear. When that was achieved, the war ended. Exactly, by the way, on our plan. There was one possible more strike, and that was it. It wasn't something that we were stopped or we didn't intend to follow our war plans. That's exactly what we did. But I always said that the collapsing of this regime was not part of the Rising Lion operation. It could be a result of it, but it wasn't one of the war objectives. Now it's up to the people of Iran. They see what's going on there. And, revolutions, if there are any, have to be made by revolutions within the country. I'd like to see them take charge of their destiny. They deserve it. They're great people. They're really great people. I mean, they're an ancient people. Once we had unbelievable relations with the people of Iran. In about 2,500 years ago, we had a horrible Persian leader, Haman, who was like Hitler. He wanted to destroy all the Jews, and he was, he failed, and we celebrate that failure in the story of Queen Esther, a Jewish queen who helped foil the plot. But we also celebrate a great king, which I mentioned in the beginning of this interview, King Cyrus, who returned the Jews from exile in Babylon to Judea, where we built the second temple for the Jewish people. He was a great king. He was a great friend. So we'd like to, how shall I say, we'd like to have those who follow the tradition of Cyrus for friendship, great friendship between the Jews and the Persians, and not those who follow the traditions of Haman, who want to annihilate us as the present regime does. And I'll bet that over time you'll see that the positive course is the one that will win the day. I have no doubt about that.
There are reports that they're rebuilding their nuclear facilities, and they're also investing heavily in more ballistic missiles, of course, aimed squarely at your country and obviously desires for further as well. Do you have any intel on that, on whether that is the case?
Aaron, we set them back on both courses, both on the nuclear weapon development and also on the missile development. We set them back, but they'll try to recover that, and we're following that and following it also with American friends.
Prime Minister, do you plan to run for office again, and do you think it's in Israel's best interest for you to lead for another term?
The answer is yes, and the second answer is also yes, but the people who will determine that are the people. You know, I think I am the longest-serving prime minister in Israel's history, and each time I have to get elected, people tell me, "Oh, you're King Bibi." I said, "No, I'm not a king. How can I be a king? I have to be reelected. I have tremendous opposition, not very big, by the way, but funded with billions of dollars by foreign NGOs, by foreign governments, and so on. I keep winning all the time, but I win because the people decide. The people will decide And I think that there's a very good chance that will continue because they saw we've just had a great victory from an impossible situation where we were attacked, in the worst massacre on Jews since the Holocaust. And 2 years later, we've just dismantled the Iranian axis. Hamas, is basically is shattered. Hezbollah, shattered. Doesn't mean they won't try again, but shattered compared to their previous force. The Assad regime in Syria is gone. Iran was badly hit. We hit the Houthis as well. That whole clockwise move that we made to bring down our enemies or push them away from us has been very successful, and people are very, very happy with it. And of course, we released the hostages. Can you, we released the hostages. Nobody believed that we would do it, but we did it because we put very strong military pressure on their Hamas's last remaining stronghold. And with President Trump, we also brought in a political alliance that isolated Hamas. So nobody believed we'd get those last 20 hostages alive, and we did. And nobody believed that we'd get almost all. We almost completed the job of getting our deceased hostages out. And the people appreciate it. But I have many more tasks to accomplish. I want to expand the peace, the Abraham Accords, because there's now an opportunity because of our victories, because it's peace through strength, and Israel is very strong. I think that we could carry Israel to the next stage of AI and quantum and make it, as it is, one of the 2-3 most advanced technological countries on earth. These are great tasks, and there are a few more. And if the people give me the mandate, I'll do it. But the people will decide, not the pundits, not the press, which usually is against me, and not the, how shall I say, not anyone else. Israel is an independent country, makes its own decisions, and I think on the whole it's made remarkably good decisions. And the people
Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister, is someone that says he's currently running a campaign to be Prime Minister again. He made the point that Gaza, the security there, cannot be given up to foreign entities. What is your take right now on the future of Gaza and how you ensure that what happened on October 7 never, ever happens again?
Well, I think we're well on our way to do that. I won't relinquish Israel's security to anyone. The overriding security control of Gaza will remain in Israel's hands. It must. It's so close. I mean, it's like spitting distance from Tel Aviv. We're not going to let anybody build resurgent terrorist cells there because we decimated Hamas. There's still work to be done there to disarm them and to demilitarize Gaza. It's part of President Trump's peace plan, an integral part, I would say essential part. And we'll have to move into that as we now approach phase one, completing phase one of releasing and returning all the hostages. We'll move into that. But Israel will retain overriding security responsibility because we don't farm out our security to anyone else, not in Gaza or not in any other front.
Prime Minister, you took to X today and other social media platforms to make a statement about your wife, Sarah, and your son, Yair, who you mentioned earlier. I wanted to ask you, and I know you don't often show emotion, and I get it, you're a wartime Prime Minister, and I assume you're like my father, who doesn't show much publicly anyway, but I'd love to ask you about the impact that kind of stuff has on you as a human being and where that ranks in terms of what is hard about the job that you do, the hurt that it causes your family who don't make this decision to enter public life.
It's very difficult, Aaron. You go into public life and you take the knocks. But Sarah, who married me as a young woman, she didn't know that I would complete the course and rise to the top. My children were in many ways born into this situation. And the fact that they're attacked viciously by a slanted press is something that is very painful. They suffer character assassination, unbelievable lies, falsification, court lawfare that they have to contend with. And I'm just so grateful that my wife and my son, who fight for Israel, She fights like a lioness, and Yair fights like a lion. He's been on your show and many others defending Israel. They're committed to the cause that I've devoted my life to. They're my anchor. They're my base of support. And without them, I wouldn't be here. So at once, I'm very, very grateful. And the other, I'm also pained by their pain. But I have to say that in recent years, something unusual has happened. See, the Israeli media has opened up. Like we have, I guess, the equivalent of Fox channel here. And the social media has opened up. So the monolithic attacks that were never answered in the media are now a thing of the past. And as time passes, more and more and more people appreciate Sarah's enormous contribution to me and to the state, and to, and to wounded soldiers and to Holocaust survivors, even to the cause of animal welfare, you name it. I mean, lone soldiers, everything. And they see also Yair's contribution in the battle for the PR battle that is so essential for Israel. And people appreciate them. They just appreciate that very much. And especially since my wife, Sarah, is the only prime minister's wife that has a day job. She continues her work as a children's psychologist in the Jerusalem municipalities. It's quite amazing. So I'm very proud of my wife. I'm very proud of Yair and my other son, Avner. But you asked me, does it pain me when they're attacked? Yes, it does. Of course it does. Deeply.
Prime Minister, I could ask you a million more questions, but we have run out of time. This is not a news show. This is an opinion show. I am a journalist, yes, but a commentator in this capacity. And I would like to finish by thanking you so sincerely for not being perfect, not conducting everything in a way that is perfect. That is impossible. No leader is. But I want to thank you for doing an incredible job, for your courage, for your moral clarity, for fighting an evil that threatens not just your country and your people, but the entire West, and doing it under the kind of conditions that you should never, ever have to. And I say that very genuinely, and I want to thank you for everything you do on behalf of all of us who believe in peace, freedom, democracy, and despise terrorism. So thank you. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for your clarity and courage. And I want to point out to you that there are some job openings in the BBC. Think they'll take you?
Prime Minister, you could not pay me enough. And I say that as someone who has lost significant income in this space. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.